What is going on, Governor? It's Chisgule here, and today we're going to show you the Karuak ceremony, bosses 1 through 4, which we tackled, I think, a little over a week ago. I'm just getting to editing this footage, and I'm pretty excited to share this with you because we did not think we could take out the 3rd and 4th boss based on how hard they'd been in the past, and, well, you'll see what happens. So in this video, there's a couple things I want to talk about. First thing I want to talk about is our protocol within Legion for how we approach these bosses. And the second thing I want to talk about is just general Karuak boss strategy. If you like guides where we walk through Karuak strategy, you should definitely like and subscribe because we've got a lot of videos about that, including a playlist on our channel. And we're a sponsored creator for Rise of Kingdoms. Now you can see we've already summoned and beaten the first boss here. Pretty easy peasy, straightforward Zerg. We'll get the job done. And now is where things start to get a little more interesting with the second boss. This second boss summons a bunch of bears to come and battle you, which is kind of amazing. That said, he doesn't summon the bears if he dies too quickly, which is what you're about to see happen. Now within Legion, our protocol for the bosses in the Karuak ceremony is that we schedule a time when lots of people can attend. We don't just like randomly summon it and then whoever's on gets to hit it. We schedule a time, and what we learned from this time around is that we should break them up into 2 or even 3 chunks so that lots of people can participate potentially at different times. Now, what you're seeing here is that after we summon the boss, we tell everybody to get into position. B, a T5 player from our alliance, was tanking, using Richard and Charles. And so we'd have B hit first, and then everybody else would sort of pile on. Now, one of the strategies that we used here that I thought was really, really helpful is that we had players bring multiple armies over to the area where we were summoning the bosses. Because people's cities were kind of far away from where we were, so we made it a sort of situation where they'd sort of battle the boss with one army, or a second if they needed to, and then between attempts, they would just swap in the other army that they had in a nearby city, just sort of hanging out. And then they would send up a new army. So they always had an army at the ready to sort of make their contribution. And like, look, when you're doing this as a full alliance, you don't really need to have a sort of proper, like maximum perfect army. What I do want to point out here is if you look at these rewards for the Bearkeeper, it's sort of surprising. Like, look at these blue Starlight sculptures and blue Mysterious sculptures. Like, those are not a thing that I want to see. By the way, looks like somebody accidentally attacked a city back there. Oops, whatever. So now we're going to summon the next boss, and this is where things get spicy. This Shield Chieftain is a particularly tough boss. Why is that? What the Shield Chieftain does is if he kills any army, he heals a lot. I believe it's like 10% of health, but it might be more. And the other thing that the Shield Chieftain does that I think is particularly challenging is they stack a debuff that makes it so that I think whoever is getting hit, it gets melted really, really quickly. So what you're going to see, you see here we're saying get in position, right? This is pretty standard how we do this. We tell people to get in position. I think we're actually going to have a false start on this boss, and some people are going to get totally wrecked. But, like, look, our policy for false starts is we just let you die. And you don't really get that many severely injured units, so whatever. So I think here comes a false start, which is pretty funny. And, like, you know, I keep track of who's following instructions. This is not a particularly complex instruction. And so all the people that pile on, by the way, after we say, like, you know, only attack when B goes in. Did I cut it out here? Oh no, here I'm advising. This is where I'm advising that everybody has to run away. And the thing that's really smart about doing this within a hive, like we've done it here, is that you can just reinforce a nearby city if you need to get away from the boss, rather than having to run away really far and you get chased the whole time. You can just pop into one of these cities. Easy peasy. So let's see, where's the false start? There it is, false start. False start, and they just get melted. You can see the red circle around that player is a debuff that's stacking up, I believe, up to 20 stacks. There's a heal for 75,000 on the boss, because when they kill an army, they get healed back up. So a bunch of players just seeing, oh, somebody's attacking, I better attack, which, yeah, we just let them go. let him go, and that's just going to be what it's going to be. And yep, here you see me saying we didn't say go. B is not in, right? And we want B to tank with his Martel and with his Richard to make this easier. I think end up being the second person to hit in the attempt where we actually take this bad boy down. And I end up tanking for a little bit. I get kind of low, and I'm going to end up zipping back to my city just to get away. So whatever. People are getting rolled, and like I've got a list of all the people who were not quite paying as much attention as perhaps could have happened there. So, okay, attempt 2. Yeah, attempt 2. Let's try this again. Something also worth mentioning is, obviously we want to drop some buffs onto the person who is tanking. So we put Duke onto B. So B's got 5% extra defense, which is pretty handy. And I think at this point, we're going to cut over. Here we go. Now we're going to tell B to roll. B's ready. We say, okay, go. Let's do this. Now the real attempt. Here comes the real attempt. And boom. Looks like, oh, well, someone didn't get the memo. Then B is in. It's good enough. The person ran away that didn't, that attacked too early. And now, boom, we're in on the action. Now, it's going to be hard to see, but there's a debuff that's stacking that looks like a purple teardrop on B's army. And when that gets up to like 10 plus stacks, it's going to be really hard for B to keep tanking the damage. And see, he's got 18 stacks and he leaves at half health. And now we see the flash gets hit and gets melted. The boss heals for, it looks like 150,000, perhaps more. But we have so many people, we're doing so much damage, it doesn't matter. We see someone else has got 8 stacks, 9 stacks, 10 stacks, 11, and they get melted. Boss heals up. I can't even see who's getting hit. Oh, it's me now. So I'm 6, 7, and I'm like, all right, I got to get out of here. These stacks are adding up. So I retreat my army, and it goes back to the city. Now, it's worth calling attention to the fact that even though I was in the city when this thing died, I still got loot. So you don't have to be there. You just have to hit it. And so here's the loot table for this guy. Pretty cool. All right, I guess this was when the springtime event was happening. This loot table looks definitely better than the last one because I don't see any of those freaking blue starlights and mysterious sculptures. Honestly, that was pretty decent. There was a few hiccups, and I think if you were really trying to optimize for this, you have your strongest players attack in sequence. That way they probably get attacked in order. That way the boss is less likely to heal up. But now is for the main event. Voodoo Priest. The Voodoo Priest is seriously tough. And our strategy here, it was surprising to me that this would work, but it did. I don't want to spoil too much, so I won't say a whole heck of a lot about the strategy, but until you get to see it. But what this boss does, and we didn't know, we'd never fought them before. What this boss does is they put down a ring of fire. And that ring of fire, it burns. It burns. So the strategy certainly will involve having many, many armies in the vicinity. You want to have many armies in the vicinity, many armies nearby to get in on the action, because even though if you read the description of the Karuak Bosses, it says you can only bring one army, I think maybe you can only have one army attacking at a time. Anyways, we cut the footage forward. Now B is going to start the fight. Any second, he says, okay, I'm going. There's the Voodoo Priest taunting us. Pray that you truly are the chosen one. Good news, B is the chosen one. And there it is. Look at that AoE. So we now send in our army using calves. We figure we're going to go a DPS route. Probably would have gone a more tanky route if I were doing it again. And just look at the madness. Look at this madness. Such burning. All these armies are getting super melted. It is really funny to watch, honestly. Yeah, people are laughing. Oh my goodness, in the chat. Yup. So now armies are starting to melt. They're starting to get sent back to their cities. And this is where what surprised me is that I could just send army after army to this battle in order to win. And so every time my army got melted, I'd send a new one. So my calves here are getting kind of low. And in a moment, you're going to see me put in an infantry army. And after my infantry army gets melted, I'm going to send in the cavalry again. So here we are. Our calves are about to get melted. They're defeated. They get sent back. This is why I think it's really advantageous to basically do this in the center of your hive. I keep having to reset the number of troops that I'm sending because those presets are for when I have a 25% army expansion. Now we've got our infantry in, tanky army going, and yeah, this guy's not dying as fast, but he is dying, and I don't know if he's got a sort of rage timer. Rage timer is a bad word. Enrage timer is probably the language I'm looking for from raiding in World of Warcraft. And enrage timer, and that's enrage. And enrage timer is when the boss just goes like insane, Super Saiyan, incredibly hard to defeat, killing everything in one shot. If you are taking too long to beat it. And that's sort of a check that many games use to make sure that you're not zerging it, kind of like we are right now. So we're zerging this thing down. We're zerging it down, sending army after army. Here we go, sending in our cavalry. We select the army. New mail received. That means our army was defeated, and we send the cavalry back in. Zerging this bad boy down. And it does take a little while. Batman says this was impressive. I mean, it was something. It was a spectacle. It was a spectacle. More armies getting melted. We're already down to half health. Pretty sure we might have to send infantry in as well. Just sending army after army. Let's see if I can find B's army in there. Is he back in? He might not be. Right? So with this boss, you could, at least at the time of this recording, you could send army after army, and this was totally fine. This was totally fine, and we get loot. There's B. B's in with a tank army. Now I'm in with a tank army. Working on this boss. And you can see here the hospital damage is nothing. It's nothing. We're not taking very many severely injured units, so we could do this all day. We could do this all day if we wanted, and it's totally worth the cost for legendary sculptures. Totally worth the cost. We're battling in. Little thumbs up from Asuka. And boss getting lower. Number of armies nearby getting lower, but more pouring in by the second. All right, this is pretty funny. All right. Azek beaten down. Brumbear, no Kilo. Cabo getting sent back. But it doesn't matter if you get sent back to your city. Everybody who hit it gets loot. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if you're actively hitting it when it dies. As long as it dies, you get the loot. Master Leo getting knocked down. Another army from Brumbear and Mikkel. And, I mean, look at all these armies getting sent back. I can't even shout them out fast enough, but the boss is down. Boss is down. Let's get a look at the loot. We got 5. Come on, epic sculptures. Oh, well. But a whole bunch of people got legendary commander sculptures, which is why you want to schedule a time, get as many as people you can to attend this darn thing. So there you have it, my friends. There you have it. The bosses 1 through 4 in the Ark of Osiris. In Legion, we insist that people push all the way up to 100 every single time every single time the event comes around. So we'll be smashing the next tier of boss next time around. All right, my friends. This concludes this video. Hope you enjoyed watching. Like and subscribe if you want to see when we take on the hardest boss. And until next time, you have fun smashing the kingdom.